All right, for realsies in five, four, three, two, one.
All right. Welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon Reviews. Um, this week we have two games. First up is Trulon, the Shadow Engine. Uh, and let's see where to start on this. It's not it's the latest release from Head Up Games, and yet not the latest. That is to say, this is a game that has existed for a while, but has hit a new platform recently. I'm like, um, it originally started out as a mobile game for both iOS and Android, about released about 2 years ago, and ported to Steam in 2016, and I think the Xbox One might have been alongside the PC release. Its most recent platform is the PlayStation 4. And what Trulon is, it's a card-based RPG, styled like a JRPG. Although I really can't call, things that are styled as JRPGs because, the J stands for Japanese. It designated where that came from. I get that it's more a style now, but words matter.
Still, it looks like one of the sort of more steampunky Final Fantasies or something.
Right. I kept thinking more like Final Fantasy Tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Because it's got a SRPG graphical look to it, even though it's not an SRPG by any means.
No, it's pretty straight turn-based combat.
Right. And yeah, instead of dealing with like, you do get equipment, but it's all given out to you. Like, the main focus is what they call the tactics, the cards. You guide everything through the cards. Both, everything from the basic attack to advanced tactics and magics are done through cards.
Yeah, in your each character has their own deck of cards. You start with like a few, and then when other characters join, they start with a few, and then you win them at the end of a lot of battles and when you level up and stuff.
Right.
And you can get some from people too.
And only certain characters can use certain cards. And there are like affinities. Well, that is to say, there are two kinds of magic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to trying to remember what they called the material used to power the magics.
I forget what the names of them are because I don't have the game open right now, but the point is that there are basically two different magic producing materials, and one of them is popular in the country that you come from, and one of them is popular in the country that is a rival to the country you come from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
And you have different MP meters for the two different kinds of magic, I think, even. But
yeah, it's like depending, you get the blue magic if you're from Tripudia. I think that's how you pronounce that.
mm-hmm.
Like, these are fantasy words of locations. I would need to hear the word to know how it's actually pronounced. So anyway, and you get the like red or orange magic from Malion, which, like, Triputa is your pretty typical medieval stasis kingdom, while Malion is your pretty typical later steampunk Victorian dystopia hellscape.
Yeah, although even in Homeland, you get like steampunk cyborg upgrades starting,
Right.
and your main character fights with like a steampunk gun. So
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like the basic areas and elements of the country. And you play as a young monster hunter who has to um, initially go monster hunting, let's say.
because just general monsters are menacing the town. Go do some stuff.
Right, and I suppose interestingly enough, your protagonist is a young female. It's like not, pretty rare occurrence in JRPGs. Like
Hmm.
Not that that's really an effect game wise, at least from what I could tell. Like honestly, she was she was like my powerhouse.
Yeah, she uses a gun, so there's less. It's less of a physical force issue, but she is very much the quote unquote fighter of the party members. Because
Yeah.
the second character who you recruit pretty early on to go investigate a sickness / increase in monster appearances is basically the cleric type, and I believe the third character you get is the blasty mage guy.
No, no,
No?
no. That's the fourth character. That's who's actually kind of a mix between a black mage and a rogue.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get quite that far.
Yeah, Valencia shows up pretty late in the game.
Hmm.
Like, I'm trying to remember the steampunk soldier is the third guy.
Yeah.
He's also pretty physical.
Yeah, he's
kinda
the
more-
melee type.
He's kind of more your tank, pretty
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are some cards that anyone can use, but each character has ones that they can use. And there are cards that like multiple people can use, but certain people are better at. Like you can give the mage several basic physical attacks, but
Hmm.
don't.
And this is topped off by an extra layer of strategy called assault tactics. And that's tied to your gear. Like your gear allows you to. I'm not exactly sure. Like, it's probably random. Like I don't know what the background formula is going on here, but
It said when you start getting it, it randomly makes 20% of your tactics into assault tactics.
right. And what assault tactics do is, say you have, a certain element that allows you to stun enemies. You attack you attack like all enemies. That means all opponents will be stunned for that turn. This is
I got a lot of mileage out of that, out of having a flurry of bolts with stun.
right. And I'll note that you can stack tactics, or that is to say, you can have more than one assault tactic attached to your characters, which can lead to some pretty broken combinations. Like one I found, combining like multiple card tactics with double damage. Yeah, that was kind of the unlock the win key or something like that. It made battles like I was doing thousands of points of damage at certain points with with my monster hunter.
I mostly never felt like I was in super huge danger.
I'm like
At least in the part of the game I played.
I'm like the difficulty curve can spike very noticeably, especially at the beginning of the game. It does level off as you get further on. But it's like I'd say like when I got to Malion, that's like when the biggest spikes hit, and I actually had to grind a bit to get my characters a bit more high in levels because
I think I was just getting into that. The biggest boss that I felt like I would have had an issue with was at the Borderlands, the security robot boss. Because that thing has an attack that does a butt ton of damage. It telegraphs the crap out of it, but I managed to get through that actually fairly easily by manipulating the wild card.
Right.
Because in addition to the cards that you draw normally and the attack card, the basic attack card that's always there, there's a wild card, which is basically a randomly chosen card from, I think it's out of a set of universal ones. And you whenever you use it, the next character that goes, there's a new wild card. So this boss is it does the thing that you see a lot in this kind of RPG, where like one turn it set targets, and then the next turn it attacks the thing it targeted for massive damage.
Right.
So by flipping around to try to make sure I always had evasion as a wild card when it was going to do that, I managed to not get shot with giant missiles.
That's good. Like, anyway, so graphically, as mentioned before, this game has a very, how do I put it looks like a PlayStation game. Like, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It just, it has, it has a fairly low poly look to it, and that's owing to its mobile origins. And this is very clearly not even a high-end mobile game.
It's almost like the inverse of a PlayStation, because the backgrounds are definitely rendered 3D, but most of the characters are.
Yeah, the characters are like 2D, and I'll be honest, I don't think they really match all that well. Like
I mean, it's not that bad, but it's like there's a clear distinction between what are objects and what is part of the background.
Right. It's like, the 2D objects kind of clash with the backgrounds. Honestly, like still, like the animation's pretty impressive. Even if the actual artwork, I'll be honest, is kind of DeviantArt levels at times.
Yeah, like the battle cut-ins look a little bit MS Painty, DeviantArty.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah. And it does an interesting thing that I thought it was interesting was that it goes through. It's not quite as creative as Chrono Trigger was, but it kind of goes with the Chrono Trigger method of overworld battles, where you can see one or more monsters there, so you can try to avoid the battle if you want.
Right, and on the overworld, you can avoid battles entirely. Like when you get into an encounter, it'll ask you. It says you have found something. Do you want to investigate? You can choose not to, and mind you, not every encounter is a battle. Like sometimes,
a lot of them aren't. A lot of the time, it's just, oh hey, there's a experience orb and a treasure chest.
Right, and speaking of treasure chests, pretty much the only side quest of note is finding hidden treasure chests on the map. Yeah, I'm like,
I mean, there are random fetch quests in certain areas, but they're pretty self-contained.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. As nice and accessible as this game is, it also feels very cut down, like from even say a 16-bit RPG. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, based on the stuff early on, I could see a lot of different ways the story could go, but I was like 90% sure it wasn't going to go most of those ways because.
Yeah, I'm like I wouldn't recommend playing this for the story. It's pretty it's pretty standard. Like
it's
like
this is your life, inciting incidents, have to go place to investigate thing.
Right, like I suppose like the most interesting aspect of the story was like later on, them. Like everyone warning the monster hunter not to give in to like hate and anger or whatever, or not to let the war define them or some shit like that. It doesn't actually play into the character because, well, here's the thing. This is basically the first installment of the game. Not sure if that's actually planned, but yeah. It's one of those you do beat the main force, but the bigger force is still a threat, and it ends on a sequel hook. Once again, I'm not sure if it's ever getting that.
It has room for it, and honestly,
Yeah.
there's enough mechanically and world design interesting in here that I would actually like to see it expanded on in a more fleshed out game that is less limited to what you can easily do with mobile devices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would definitely concur with that, especially since the Trulon world is more than just this game, at least according to like the websites, because apparently this is a book and a show as well. I'm
like a web show.
I guess there's a trailer on the website, but I have no idea if this actually came out. Keep in mind, what we're reviewing here is very, very European. It's from Head Up Games, who's a German publisher, and it's developed by Key Games, who's located in Finland. This is a thing that could have been released in Finland for all I know. The Witcher novels or the Metro novels.
Yeah, European fantasy is a thing.
Yes. Although this isn't really European fantasy style in terms of monster design.
Yeah, it borrows a lot from. Again, the graphics are very Final Fantasy Tactics-ish, and a lot of the monsters would fit in okay in that kind of game.
Like,
even pretty early in the game, it relies a lot on the oh hey, it's the same enemy with a recolor.
Oh yeah, that happens pretty early in the game, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
The recolor means it's stronger.
Well, a stronger or a different element, and then sometimes there's, I don't know, other stuff. Like some of them, like I think there's some of the monkeys have third eyes and some of them don't.
Yeah. I'm like, all right. So let's see. The music is, once again, pretty typical fare. Like, it's one of those, I'm already having trouble remembering it. I beat the game a few days ago, and already, the whole experience is already kind of leaking out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's serviceable, but it's not going to be like. It seems okay in the moment, but it's not going to be like how I can still hum Secret of Mana music to myself.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, it's inoffensive, it's decent, but it's nothing all that amazing. And I suppose I should get to my biggest caveats with the game, at least on certain platforms, because console tax.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the version of Trulon: The Shadow Engine. It's $5.
The mobile version, yeah, and then on Steam it's $20.
$20. I'm like, do I even have to say anything here?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to give the nod to the mobile version.
Yeah, this game doesn't really have. I mean, the control is fine on PC or something, but you can click and drag things around even on PC. It would control fine with touch. So
right, it was clearly made with mobile in mind. It's one of those mobile games that actually works on PC well enough. Although sometimes it can be fiddly and such. But yeah, that price difference is just inexcusable. Because I'm not I'm not looking at the mobile trailer, the mobile screenshots. I'm not really seeing an upgrade in any regards. It looks like it's the same game on whether it be on your Android phone or your PC. And like I said, it's perfectly serviceable as an RPG, but $5 is a good price for it. $20 is not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I might go to 10.
Yeah, it's like even if this mobile version didn't exist, I still couldn't recommend this game at $20. It's just too cut down and bite size. It is a mobile experience on a computer or handheld world. Like, for that amount of money, I'd recommend like getting one of the East games or Trails of the Sky or one of the Final Fantasy games, and so on and so forth. It's floating in a much larger competitional pool, and its price isn't reflected in that.
Yeah, this is one of those games. In a bubble, it's fine, but compared to other stuff on Steam, not great.
Yeah. Let me just check like console prices, because I'm willing to bet, given how I've seen other games function, that this is going to be $20 on the PlayStation Store. No, it's like, yep, $20. Like, yeah, get it for mobile.
Yeah.
That this isn't even that. Like, I'll be honest, I'm kind of flummoxed at how big of a price gap this is.
Yeah,
like,
this is it's a decent game, but it's definitely a wait for a sale or get the mobile version.
Yeah, it's like literally the same game exists for a quarter of the price. And it's also on the devices that you'd most likely have too. Like, not like, what are you more likely to own? A PlayStation 4 or even a PC versus an iPhone or an Android phone. As far as the game itself, yeah, it's like solid 5 out of 10. For our rating scale, 5 is average. Like,
I might even go a little higher with the caveat that there's not much there. What's there is decent.
It's fair enough. Yeah, maybe a 6, because nothing sticks out as terribly bad. It's just it's not spectacular. It's not rising above the level of it's all right, it's good, but you've seen it about 1,000 times before. Like, any other thoughts or words on Trulon or Trulon?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't think it's worth $20, but I think if you can get it for cheaper, it's definitely worth checking out. And I might actually end up checking out the book or something, because it seems like a fun setting.
Yeah. If it's something in English.
Yeah. Not exactly sure what the Shadow Engine was this game. Like, they didn't really name drop it or anything. It's like, but I suppose that's immaterial.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that'll about do it for Trulon. Coming up next after the break, Project Cars 2. Not only our review, but we're doing a code giveaway. We'll have more details on that during the break if you're just joining us. Until such time, I wish you good gaming.
All right, we're still on air. Will